This is First Gen Xers.
All right. Hey, y'all, what's up? It's me, the one and only Dark Lord 100, aka Double KK Double. I am here with the one and only Dirk Swab. What is up, sir?
What up, man?
And we are your hosts today for First GenXers Presents the Classroom, featuring us. And there's been a lot going on in sports this week, and a lot going on in the world. So our host O'Malley, wishing her the best. She'll take the week off. She should be back next week strong. We'll close the show with her famous catchphrase. Because she got to be represented. So, all right. First and foremost, get the quick plug out the way. You can check out the Classroom on Facebook by just looking for the Classroom featuring. You'll see our pretty faces there, and you'll be able to just like and follow. All right. So, first subject up. Swab was not here last week when we were talking about this with O'Malley, so we're going to get some of his thoughts as well. And we'll bounce back and forth on the AFC and the NFC championship game. We will open up with where we did on Sunday morning, the New England Patriots defeating the Denver Broncos in what could have been one of the sloppiest AFC title games I've seen in a long time, in the snow between New England Patriots and Drake May and the Denver Broncos with Jarrett Stidham. Yeah. Your thoughts on the AFC title game?
Came out essentially like we thought it would. Essentially, the Denver Broncos and the snow conditions made it very difficult for the Broncos. There were some questionable calls by Sean Payton. And honestly, the Broncos were a bit closer in keeping it closer than I thought they would be with Stidham. But he definitely showed at the end that he's not the guy. Threw an interception to really seal the game. They had opportunities. I believe they didn't get the game-tying field goal late. I forget what quarter that was in. But, this game went kind of how we thought. And Broncos fans have to be absolutely heartbroken knowing that the game turned out like this. And I believe with Bo Nix, they very well may have won this game.
They could have gotten 14 out of Knicks. I do believe that. Even though that don't get it.
Or at least 13, 2 field goals.
Where you may not like the Patriots, you have to give them credit on one side of the ball this year, and that is their defense. Their defense has been pretty stout. It's had a couple of bad games, but so did every one of the top defenses. This year. But that New England Patriots defense is for real. I think that's the part of the Super Bowl that we're going to be most inclined to keep an eye on is the New England defense versus Sam Darnold, and then Drake May versus that Seattle resurgence defense that they have over there now. I agree with you 100% in the sense that Bo Nix makes a difference in this game. Like if the Patriots had blown them out 35-7, then I might be like, Bo Nix may not have made a difference. The Patriots are just a more dominant team. But do I think that Bo Nix could have gotten them an extra 6 points? Yeah. An extra 3 to send it into overtime and at least give them a chance to get the double. I do think Bo Nix is worth 3 points. Jarrett Stidham. No offense to Jarrett Stidham. Bro, bounced around a bit.
He is a career backup. He's making NFL money. I'm not mad at Jarrett Stidham. Maybe had he been able to come in earlier in the season and actually get his feet wet against other teams where it wasn't one or done. I mean, he was put in a very tough position that only a rare few backup quarterbacks have actually excelled.
Well, I was going to say also, it reminds me of what you're talking about is if you had more time, that reminds me of the Matt Castle situation. One year the Patriots fell off in that run with Tom Brady where Brady got injured first thing in the year. What is it with quarterbacks and getting injured against Kansas City's defense like week 1 or week 2? Like it happened to Jimmy Garoppolo, or it was week 3 with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then it happened with Tom Brady, but yeah, like Brady got hurt and Castle took over early in the season, like week 1, week 2. He was able to lead them to 11 wins. They still went 11-5 that season. It just wasn't enough.
Hey, it got him paid. I mean, you can go back the Flynn, I believe that quarterback's name was for Green Bay. He ended up signing big time money 2 times, I believe. He signed once with the Raiders and then with another team. He got paid twice as a backup. Frank Reich had a decent career, but he came in and won. So
Mac Jones is about to get paid.
Yeah, Mac Jones. I mean, hell, the other guy in the Super Bowl, Sam Darnold. So I mean, he came in, did the backup thing for a heartbeat, went to a good team, had success. So there's been ups and downs. It just is a shame that Stedham got put in this position, and even with the whole week of reps, they just were unable to form a game plan around him to be just a little. They lost this game by a sliver with a backup quarterback.
With the backup quarterback, and that is impressive. Good job out there, Sean Payton. I'm pretty sure you guys will be back next year. This defense is young. They still got Dre Greenlaw. They still got Hufanga. They still got the other beast on the defensive line. So that team's going to be back, and they're going to be relevant again. I don't know if they're having a number 1 seed season again next year, but I think they'll still be relevant next year.
I mean, I think they're doing enough to win, but I will say that the knee-jerk reaction by Sean Payton to fire the offensive coordinator after this game, I don't know. It's like, okay, you were the number 1 seed and you fell short because your backup quarterback or your starting quarterback got hurt in the last 3 plays of a game, an overtime game, to advance in the playoffs. And you fire your offensive coordinator after that season. Now I know Sean Payton's the guy that calls the plays. The offensive coordinator is there for everything that Sean Payton doesn't want to have to do. He's orchestrating, doing what Sean Payton tells him. And I guess they have a long history, so the offensive coordinator knew somebody's head was going to roll. And since the defense had been lights out most of the season, Sean just chose him. Now, why? I don't know. I really have a hard time.
Anybody below him is a null factor, meaning it doesn't have enough impact to make it seem like there's been, somebody was held culpable, and the only person above him is Sean Payton, so he's not going anywhere.
It's the optics, though. I mean, you just got finished being the number 1 seed. Your starting quarterback went down. You're the guy that really calls all the plays. And because your backup quarterback still kind of shit the bed, unless the offensive coordinator's job was to get him ready, and Sean Payton felt like he didn't do a good job of that, which, let's be honest, a week of preparation isn't doing anybody any good with a guy that's never really started before, and doesn't necessarily have a ton of high-end potential. Let's be clear. Had they had Malik Willis instead of Jarrett Stidham, I think they probably win this game. But you're dealing with Jarrett Stidham, and he just wasn't able to get it done. There was no reason to fire the offensive coordinator after the season you just had. No reason. You weren't on the hot seat. The ownership wasn't looking for somebody's head to roll. So for Sean Payton to do this knee-jerk reaction is very, very curious. Very curious.
I can definitely agree. It makes about as much sense as a McDermott fire.
Yeah. That one's even worse, but I understand. At least that one has some history. You've only been doing this Bronco thing for 2 seasons, and it's been going very well for all things considered. And the McDermott one's even, at least there's prior history, regardless of the fact that he helped build this thing up and build Josh Allen up and everything about this team. That one. I mean, this one was kind of worse because the McDermott one actually had history. They've been coming up short. Everybody was like, "This has got to be their year," and they weren't able to
Kansas
get it
City
done.
out of the playoffs. So I can joke. Cincinnati didn't make the playoffs. The Ravens didn't make the playoffs. This was supposed to be the Bills' year to be able to run that table and get to a Super Bowl.
So that one I understand, but the Broncos in year 2 of the Sean Payton era, firing the offensive coordinator after you just had the number 1 seed, I might feel different had they lost with Bo Nix.
Right.
But it's obvious to me, Sean Payton put the OC in charge of getting Stedham ready. A week wasn't hardly good enough. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I thought the game plan was kind of faulty, and that's a Sean
Yeah.
Payton thing. That's not on the offensive coordinator. They didn't really rely on the things that Stidham does well, which aren't a lot, but short passes, rely on the running game, and you're playing in a snow game. So
Yeah.
really, this is kind of a loss on Sean Payton, and he literally took his offensive coordinator, moved him in front of him, and said, "Here, take this bullet."
Hey, guy. Hey, you want to come over for a second? Yeah, just stand right here.
Yeah, and from what I've read, the
What,
reports I've
what
read,
happened?
the offensive coordinator knew it was coming. He said he knows when Sean Payton gets in these moods because they've been friends and associates together and have coached together at other places. So he knew the writing was on the wall. He didn't think it. He thought it might happen, but yeah, it's just kind of that was just a weird one. Didn't really sit right with me.
Sure. All right, so we'll move over to the NFC now, where the Seahawks, I wouldn't say dominated, but definitely had a great game for round 3 against the Rams as they beat the Rams 31-27 to advance to the Super Bowl. I don't think Seattle's been to a Super Bowl since the Legion of Boom.
Nope.
So this is a congratulations. What sucked about this is after the Patriots won in the morning, either way we were getting a rematch.
Yeah.
Either we were getting a
Either
rematch
way.
of Seahawks Patriots or we were getting a rematch of Rams Patriots. So it just kind of sucked from there. But Seahawks are technically new blood, considering I think it's been close to a decade since the Legion of Boom. So this is them being there for the first. I want to say the Rams have been there recently, right? Like 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020, 2021, something like that. They won over the Bengals.
But yeah, so congratulations to Seattle. Like I said, it's always nice to see the team that beats you get to the Super Bowl. I will say this, yes, that TikTok that you sent me is true. It's why I would not be looking at Levi Stadium for the next week or two. They have a big picture of Sam Darnold out there, and as a 49ers fan, that makes me want to puke just thinking about it. But congratulations to the Seahawks. I can't take anything away from them. They were on top. They finished on top of the toughest division in football with the number 1 seed, and then proceeded to run over both of the other 2 top teams in their own division to get to the Super Bowl. Hell of a story, man. Hell of a story. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, their title game was probably the best game. I would want to say a little bit more excitement per se. Both teams healthy. You're beating Matt Stafford, who's coming into it, essentially up for an MVP. I'd be very surprised if he still doesn't win it. Drake May had a great year, but I believe Stafford has done a lot of deserving things out there on the field. I will say the last play of the game was a bit of a head scratcher and how it was called. I thought Puka Nacua completed it with the feet down and got out of bounds, and the refs called it a different way and ended the game on the spot. So that was kind of a weird way for that game to end. But you give credit to Seattle. They did beat a very, very competent team, a very high caliber quarterback. I mean, honestly, they're my favorites to win the Super Bowl. I just don't see with everything that they have going right now. As long as Sam Darnold is more healthy than he was for that game, I think they're my favorites to win the Super Bowl.
I
And I
can see
mean,
why they're your
as a
favorites.
ex-Raider fan,
Yeah.
I'd be like, Seahawks all the way regardless. But just speaking unbiasedly, I think how they got here, the run that they're on, I think that they have a very good chance. Although I won't discount the Vrabel. I do like him as a head coach. They do have some of the pieces they need to be able to win this game. But I just think it's the Seahawks' time.
I can understand that. I think the X factor of the game is going to be New England's defense. If New England's defense can get Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, if New England's defense can turn Sam Darnold into old Sam Darnold, I think New England has a chance. Because I think that they know how to work with Drake May. They know how to keep it simple with him. And they have a running game. Stevenson, was it Rashawn Stevenson? Ramondre Stevenson, and what's the other guy? Henderson, the rookie that they have too. They have a solid running game. And I'm not saying they're going to be able to run all over Seattle because, as we saw, even with Christian McCaffrey, it was tough for the Niners to move the ball against Seattle's defense. But I think that they'll be able to scheme up some stuff to be able to move the ball. They're playing in Levi, so we're not looking at As far as I know, there's not any rain projected for next week, and they're not going to be playing in the snow. At worst, it's going to be cold. You know what I'm saying? So I can see them establishing a running game in this game and being able to, how do you say, game manage Drake May out of making a lot of mistakes against a defense that he should probably make a lot of mistakes against, as good as they are.
Yeah, I think this game comes down to which defense plays the best for that game. I think that the Seahawks will definitely rely on a lot of the game film that they saw because if the Patriots play like they played against the Broncos, they are getting crushed
Oh
in
yeah,
this game.
crunch.
But if they're able to do like you're saying, control the ball, no turnovers, rely on the running game. Only problem is, I think this is about the Broncos were a great defense. Seattle is just as good, if not better.
Again, I like I said, it's a toss-up for me. I could see either team winning, but I definitely agree with you. I see Seattle's the more likely thing. But again, I think it all depends on what that New England defense does. If they live up to the hype of what they've been most of the season, again, I think they can get Sam Darnold out there seeing ghosts, and they can create some chaos in that backfield. Not to say now, mind you,
if the Pats win the 7th Super Bowl, that's going to be.
Now, Seattle fans, don't get me wrong. I am not discounting Kenneth Walker Jr. and Zach Charbonnet. I am not. Those are two of the best backs in the league right now. But I think that both offenses, Seattle's and New England's, face similar issues against the defenses that they're facing. Both defenses are very stout run defenses, and they have good guys. They have good guys on the corners and on the back end. So, like I said, I don't expect a high scoring battle. Hopefully, this shit ain't gonna be 10-3 like it was with the fucking Patriots and the Rams. Hopefully we'll like 28-21. I could see Seattle winning something like that. Sorry. As y'all know, in the NFL, as soon as the season ends, get fired and get hired. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the head coaching carousel, right quick. And where these folks have gone. You weren't really here last week when we discussed this a little bit, but so far we have Atlanta Falcons hiring ex-Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, the Baltimore Ravens hiring the Chargers defensive coordinator, who spent time with both Harbaughs, Jesse Minter. The Bills replacing McDermott with offensive coordinator Joe Brady as a new head coach. The Cleveland Browns hiring Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken. All right. Miami Dolphins hiring the Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. The New York Giants, of course, we talked about that last time you were on, hiring John Harbaugh as their the former Ravens head coach. And the Steelers hiring former Cowboys and Packers head coach Mike McCarthy. And lastly, but not least, on the side note, the 49ers are about to hire former Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris, the predecessor to Kevin Stefanski, as their new defensive coordinator. Morris does have a history with Shanahan. They were together in Washington and in Atlanta the last time he was in Atlanta. So, all right, man. So your thoughts on some of these head coaching moves and the carousel, where some of these people went? Were they deserving? Were they not?
Nothing really outlandish. I think that the Browns may have made a mistake because they're going to end up losing their D coordinator over this issue. He interviewed for the job, wasn't selected. Honestly, he had to know that he wasn't going to be selected. You need a strong offensive coordinator or offensive mind to come in for the Cleveland Browns. It's literally the only piece of the puzzle they don't have to be a competitive team is somebody figuring out how to get this offense to start scoring some points. So they needed an offensive mind to come in. The defense is straight. The defense is one of the best in the league. So for them, they really need somebody to come in offensively, which means they might lose their D coordinator. Luckily for the Browns themselves, the team kind of knows what they're doing. You know, they've learned from the guy for the last few years, so they
Jim Schwartz
understand his
is his name.
schemes. Yeah, so I mean, I understand what they're doing. I think they just might lose a good coordinator because of it. Next up, I don't understand how this guy continues to get work. But Mike McCarthy, I understand he's the hometown guy, born and raised Pittsburgh. I understand all that. He should not be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sorry. Um, he did good in Green Bay,
Yeah,
and
got one
his input
championship.
on the his input on the drafts kind of dismantled that team around Aaron Rodgers.
Mhm.
The one time he had a top elite defense, they won the chip. They never got back to having an elite defense because they just couldn't draft right when they had to pay guys or let guys walk. So he didn't really do much for the Cowboys. He kept the ship kind of going. They were in it at least. They were competitive, but
Yeah,
he wasn't necessarily the guy to take them over the top because the Cowboys have a load of talent and they've actually been drafting fairly well when you look at everybody that they've had come through the system. So he didn't win anything there. And then literally a year out of football, he's like, okay, I'm back now. I'm the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's like, bro, you haven't done anything for damn near 20 years. You won one Super Bowl with an all-time elite great quarterback. And currently, unless he's able to talk Rodgers into coming back, they don't really have a quarterback. So they do have weapons. I'm not going to totally dog them. They were
they
just
sent
a
us their
game or
first
two
rounder
out.
for Mac Jones.
Good luck with that. But you know, I'm curious.
Uh,
My sentiment is they try to go after Malik Willis, but again, it's going to come on what kind of quarterback does McCarthy want? Who's he going to bring in? Because we know Rodgers doesn't want to really tutor guys per se, but I think he's past that because they did show on Hard Knocks. And I don't know if it was just for the camera, but he was trying to mentor Zach Wilson, even though he's never done nothing with it or hasn't gotten an opportunity to show that he learned anything after being a New York Jet. So I'm curious to see what they do. They've got a lot of unanswered questions. I think
I believe he's in
McCarthy
Minnesota.
can kind of keep the ship going, but don't expect to win another chip in Pittsburgh without some kind of miracle.
And what are your thoughts on Raheem Morris signing on as the Niners' new defensive coordinator? He is a defensive guy, of course, for people
Yeah, I
that
mean
don't
that's
know.
a great hire. You go from Salah to another guy that can come in is probably gonna have you got all the pieces. It's really kind of it's one of those things when you're working a job and everything becomes easy because everybody knows their job. So
Yeah,
you really just kind of sit back and kind of give minor inputs here and there. Raheem Morris is coming in. Everybody's coming off an injury, coming back. So as long as they maintain their health, and regardless if they don't maintain their health, he'll need to make sure that he's implementing a good, solid plan. I mean, he's
exactly.
a great pick. Any team in the league outside of the top tier elite defenses would want a guy like Raheem Morris because he knows what he's doing. He's shown that the defense has always been pretty good as long as he has a little bit of talent back there. So
Oh,
it's a
he
good
has
pick for
that.
the Niners. They shouldn't skip a beat.
He has that. Now, here's what I was going to mention when you were talking about Cleveland and their defensive coordinators. Actually, what the rumor had been was that the Niners were looking potentially at bringing in Jim Schwartz, but he's still under contract, so he would literally have to leave
And
Cleveland
the
before
Browns
they
are
would
telling
bring him in.
everybody no.
Yeah,
It's,
so
it's gonna
of
take
course,
a pick to get him out of there, and I don't know if they can trade coaches for
I don't
picks
think so.
anymore. I think that ended after the Gruden stuff. When I don't,
Yeah,
and honestly, I don't even know why that became a thing. I
yeah.
mean, coaches get fully 100% guaranteed contracts where the players don't, but you can't trade coaches. I don't understand it. I mean, I thought that was a game changer to be honest, but
But
yeah, Cleveland's not letting him out of that contract. They want him to be the
right,
D coordinator. They want the offensive guy to come in and kind of get that offense going. And then maybe once they fire that guy, Jim Schwartz can step in and kind of run the show or whatever they're going to do. But
there,
yeah,
yeah. But so Raheem Morris to me was a good second choice. He
yeah,
has head coaching experience, which is huge. And here's why it is. Here's why it was huge when Robert Saleh came back with his head coaching experience. He's another guy who they do not have to worry. Shanahan doesn't have to worry about the defensive side of the ball. Not to mention the fact that I believe they still have Gus Bradley, former Chargers defensive coordinator and former head coach, I believe with San Diego as well, as their assistant head coach slash defense. So you combine the defensive minds of Morris and Bradley and Morris knows the system that Shanahan likes run. He's familiar with that system that Saleh was running last year and can keep that continuity by working with Gus Bradley, who's been there for a couple of years already, working with the defense. And they have some studs on that Niners defense. Like I said, they don't have like Micah Parsons, but they have Nick Bosa. They have Fred Warner. Diamador Lenore turned out to be a pretty decent corner this year. So did Renardo Green. He kind of lived up to the hype of what he was supposed to be. He wasn't supposed to be a shutdown, but he was supposed to be a pretty decent corner. Upton Stout's looking like a really good slot corner, despite his minute size at like 5'9", 5'10", I believe he is. He's showing to be a good and slot corner. So you got that combined with Fred Warner coming back, with that kid Williams coming back, who was looking good. Alfred Collins, the backup defensive tackle that they got, or the defensive tackle that they got, he's looking good. They still have Bryce Huff, because I believe they locked him in. He might be either coming back or they locked him in for a 2-year deal or something like that when they brought him in from Philly originally. So he's gonna have some bodies to work with, and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan will give him even more young bodies to work with throughout this whatchamacallit. But I wonder, and this will be the final question on this before we move on to the salary cap increase. What position do you believe would be most critical? And I'll even simplify the question a little bit. Which side of the ball do you think should be their primary focus in the draft, in free agency, and then in the draft?
Offense. Position wise, I would say it's either got to be O-line or it's got to be wide receiver.
Okay.
There's some good talent out there. They need a little bit of speeds and maybe somebody that can kind of break open the game. A lot of your skill position players, or I should say the number one guys, Ayuk's getting ready to leave. So you need a new number one receiver. Pearsall can kind of do it. Jennings can kind of do it, but there's still, I don't want to call them unknowns. Jennings got good rapport with Purdy. I'm not sure how they're working to be able to re-sign Jennings and give him that long-term deal that I know that he wants, because he held out for like $5 million last year and then finally got it. They need a successor to Trent Williams, so it makes sense to get a guy high in the draft that you can groom under this last year for Trent Williams if Trent Williams doesn't retire. I mean, that's always, you never know. Guys do leave money on the table, especially once they start hitting the 30s. So, I mean, it would make sense if he retires, but at the same time, I could see him coming out and finishing his deal. You also need a successor to Kittle. You need somebody. They do got a good backup for Kittle, but I think they need somebody to come in and kind of do that for him. They also kind of need another future backup. Somebody to kind of groom behind Purdy, somebody in the fifth, sixth, seventh round that they can come in and kind of run the offense for when Purdy inevitably gets a little dinged up and needs a week off here or there, which has kind of been the running thing. Mac Jones, you can't rely on him past this upcoming season because he's gone. There's no way they can even afford to keep him as a backup. So I would say it's on the offensive side of the ball. You got a lot of youngsters and youth on the defense that have shown that they have the ability to step up when things get tight and people go down. So I think it's the offensive side of the ball that really needs help. You need another receiver, backup tight end, and definitely at least one, but probably two offensive linemen that you can kind of plug and play, especially as guys get a little banged up and you need a successor to Trent Williams, because without a solid guy to replace him, then you're going to start seeing a little bit of trouble as defenses start collapsing the pocket on Purdy.
I would love to see them address multiple issues, but it's kind of a mixture of both sides of the ball. Here's what I mean. I would love to see them in free agency go out and get another viable backup. Not that we don't have a viable backup in Brian Robertson Jr., but another viable backup for Christian McCaffrey. Either a third wide receiver, if you're going to go with Jennings and Pearsall as your 1 and 2, or a potential number one receiver. because like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the salary cap because they might have a significant amount of money after the IE stuff goes. In the John Lynch himself has said that according to their numbers, they're going to be able to be very flexible when it comes to the free agency this year. So go out and get another viable backup to McCaffrey, maybe 2 viable receivers, maybe not 2 number ones, but one guy that could potentially be a number 1, maybe right behind Pearsall or right in front of Pearsall, and then another guy to be like a 4th receiver behind Jennings. But we do have that kid Cowan, who's only like in his 3rd year, I believe. So he could step up and be that. And Luke Farrell is decent. I believe he signed a 2-year deal as well. He's the backup tight end. I agree with you 100%. Where I would like to see them address the offensive line situation is in the draft. Is if there is one out there, I would love to see them take a left tackle. Whoever the number 1 left tackle is, reach for that motherfucker if you have to, unless he is garbage. And like you said, start grooming Trent Williams' replacement. And also go out and get yourself
if they trade up, it better hit. I tell you that.
No, I'm not saying trade up. I'm saying
okay.
I'm saying they should be able to get like where are they at? Like they made it to so they'll be in the early 20s, the late 20s.
Yeah, there's going to be about 3, 4, 5 linemen gone by that point. It's going to be pick of the litter, probably best available. They might have a shot. I mean, in the 20s, it all depends on team needs, but I think it's going to be pretty deep at the offensive tackle. I think they got to reach in the 2nd or 3rd round for an offensive lineman. I don't think they'll get one of the top tier guys. And I'm curious to see if they'll even get the 3rd or 4th best receiver option at that pick. It's possible that it could fall down. I believe there's going to be about 2 taken in the top 15, which means that the 3rd guy will kind of be out there. It'll probably be one of those best available situations, unless they trade up a couple of spots by dangling a pick to move up. It won't be a massive jump, just a couple, probably like a 4th rounder or something, or a 3rd rounder to move up a spot or 2 to get the guy they 100% want once it starts getting, pick of the litter.
I will say this: if you do not go O lineman, I don't know if I want them to go receiver. Not because it's not a deep receiver draft, but because it is. Like I think they can get a 3rd or 4th option in the 2nd or 3rd round. Somebody that they can groom into that spot that doesn't have to necessarily be a top tier wide receiver right away, but can come in and make some catches when necessary. You know what I'm saying? And they can wait until the 2nd, 3rd. If they don't go with the O line for that 1st round pick, I would love to see them go edge rusher. They can always.
I wouldn't be mad at that. I mean, honestly, at that point, they said he might be a top 10 pick, but if he slides in the draft for whatever reason, that tight end from Oregon, that's the best tight end in the draft that they said was worthy. If he falls into the 20s, I would probably jump on him and do a double tight end set and 2 wide receiver, 2 tight ends. They'd be nice.
Yeah, very true. Well, and what they do need is a blocking tight end similar to Kittle. They need somebody who can block in the zone blocking scheme or zone running scheme that Shanahan runs, and they need somebody who can also catch the ball and go. So all right, so that'll do it for that. So the next thing we're going to talk about real quick is the salary cap increase. We're going to touch on this and then the Hall of Fame before we take our first break. But the salary cap is going, and for 2026 is going to jump by a little over 20 million. Now, mind you, it's jumped every year by at least 20 million since 2022, with the high point being 30. It jumped 30 million in 2024 to 255 million. Now it's jumping up to 301 million. It's an increase of 22 to 26.5 million from the 279 from last year. So this is going to give teams like the 49ers a little bit more room than what they thought they have. I believe they were originally supposed to have like 27. I can't believe Javon Hargrave is still sitting on their fucking thing at fucking 16 million in dead cap money. That's insane. But it'll give them somewhere between 25 and 40 million underneath the cap. So that's some money to do something with come free agency. So how do you think the salary cap increase is going to affect free agency spending during this year?
I mean, guys want to go out there and get paid. So now every team in the league is going to have an extra 20 some odd million to try and make some moves. When you really look at it, it depends on what the team needs. Because when you're talking 20 million with regards to the NFL, that's really not that much. It could get you one great player or a very, very good player. It could get you two good players. It might get you three average players that can fill needs.
Yeah,
And they, you can
get
try
you
and coach
depth.
them up to play better. Yeah. So I mean, it's good, but the Niners really have to work the cap in the sense that at some point they really got to start dialing in the dead money, because not only do they have the 16 for Hargrave, they're going to have whatever's left of Ayuk's contract as well. And even if they're in a position to cut him, and I'm not sure how it's going to be affected by his guaranteed money being voided. So it might lower it a little bit, but dead money's dead money, and only half
Well,
of his contract was actually guaranteed. So it's still going to be at least half of what it was, which is averaging 20 plus a season. So you're looking at another 12. Now you're talking almost
well,
30 million in cap for two players. So I
yeah,
mean,
but
it's going to
I think
be,
Hargrave drops off within the next year or two. Like,
yeah, but
you know,
that's 2 years of almost 30 million in your cap tied up to players who ain't playing for you.
well, think about it.
It's
Yeah,
rough
I
out
know.
there.
Don't get me wrong. I agree with what you're saying as far as the financial aspect of it. But I'm saying they're not in that bad. 40 million can fill a couple of holes, like which is what they're going to be around. They're going to be
Yeah,
there
but
around
you
25
can't
to
forget
40
about
million.
re-signs. They've re-signed important players, but Jennings
But
going to
they've
want a new
re-signed, but they've
deal.
locked up all their importance. Fred Warner has been locked up to a long-term contract. Nick Bosa has been locked up to. Brock Purdy has been locked up to a long-term contract. Ricky Pearsall doesn't come up till next year, but I don't think he's going to be commanding more than about 15 or 20 million. He's not exactly, unless he has a breakout season
He's
where
probably
he
going
ends
to
up with
average
like
more around
1,500 yards.
10ish.
Yeah, so we're probably looking around 10 and we're probably going to be playing Jennings between 10 and 12 if he resigns. Kittle's already re-signed and locked up for another 4 years. Juszczyk is locked up for like another 2. Like all the important, but McCaffrey's I think been locked up, or he's coming into the end of his deal, but he'll be locked up for something like 20 mil a year. So like I get what you're saying about the re-signing, but I think they're through the deep water when it comes to the re-signing. The big one that we all knew was going to happen was Purdy, and with the way he had played on his rookie deal, we knew he was going to be getting anywhere around top elite money. Now he's gotten that money, and they've structured the contract to where, and I can guarantee you, before it gets to that 70 million balloon in the final year of his contract, if they're going to re-sign him and he's still playing well, they're going to restructure that final year to clear up some capital.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ways for them to finagle the cap, but you got to remember
Yeah,
this is the same thing that happened to Hafunga, Greenlaw. There were good players on the team that they had to let go for cap reasons. They could have.
Hufanga,
Well,
maybe
Greenlaw
Greenlaw,
wanted to be a
Greenlaw,
Bronco.
Greenlaw. They matched the offer that the Broncos gave him. He chose to go there. They had enough cap room to match that contract, so it wasn't Greenlaw wasn't a salary cap issue. But
Well, I mean,
Hufanga,
it kind of is though, because yeah, they matched the offer, but if they come over the top of the offer because they really wanted to keep him, I mean, they were at their limit. So this is going to come to effect for those guys
well, no, they were
that are
at what they
gonna,
were. They weren't necessarily at their limit. They were just at what they were willing to spend.
yeah.
Like that, because Lynch even said that they were 100% being frugal last year with the cap. But like I said, he said they're going to loosen up the belt strings for this year. One last quarterback to get to, or one last coaching thing that we forgot to get to. The Raiders signed Clint Kubiak, or is said to be signing Clint Kubiak after the Super Bowl as their new head coach. As a former Raiders fan, what's your thoughts on that, boss?
I mean, he did good things. You needed an offensive guy. They're most likely going to take, and it's funny. I've been going back and forth with current Raider fans and
Uh,
casuals about the game, about what the Raiders should do with that number one overall pick. And really, that's what it comes down to. You needed an offensive mind. They're going to take Mendoza because they can't afford to not take him and pray to win the Arch Manning sweepstakes. It is
yeah,
very rare for what the Bears did to work out for any other team's favor. To trade out of the number one pick with a quarterback on the board and then get the quarterback the next year with the number one pick.
yeah.
My thinking was, okay, if you're not going to take Mendoza, somebody's going to give up the bushel for him. You trade down to somebody in the top 5, and then honestly, if you're going to do that, I would trade back Madden style as many times as I possibly could to accumulate as many first round picks as I could from other teams that want to move up, because there's a lot of them and they're willing to give up next year's pick for particular players. Usually it's just quarterbacks, and there's only one this year in the first round since the kid in Oregon said he's going back to Oregon. But there's other teams that do like to move up occasionally to get defensive players, best at the position type deals. So there was a chance the Raiders could have got three, maybe four first round picks for next year, and then pray for rain that one of those teams, including themselves, suck enough to get Arch Manning. But I don't think the Raiders can risk it because honestly, knowing their luck, they'd be picking 2, 3, 4, and 5 out of the draft. And another team would not be giving up the number one, even if they had a quarterback, or they wouldn't trade with the Raiders to give the Raiders Arch Manning. So,
Arch
I
Manning,
mean,
yeah.
that's just the Raiders' luck. So they're taking Mendoza. It's almost I don't want to call it a lock because anything can really freaking happen in the NFL. You never really know. But they needed an offensive mind to come in. He did great with Sam Darnold. Year one, he got Sam Darnold to run that team, even though we saw Sam Darnold in Minnesota, and he went year one and won them 14 games. He goes to another franchise, and you give a lot of credit to Sam Darnold, but you also give credit to the coordinators for the Vikings and for the Seahawks because they also did their part in making sure he was ready, and he was. And I'll even say he did more with less offensively than the Vikings had skill position wise. You know,
I can see that.
the chest is full skill position wise. Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson, Addison. I forget the kid, the running back, but they got a really good crew over there of skill position players. You go to the Seahawks, they've got good players, but not necessarily. They don't have a Justin Jefferson, even though I like in Mbija. I think he's a top receiver. He's not at Justin Jefferson's level, but he's right underneath him. So they were
Yeah.
able to kind of make do. Um, he comes in, he's got a lot of weapons. You know, they've got Brock Bowers, they've got Myers, they've got Taylor, who I really like, they've got Janty. As long as they can kind of fix the offensive line through free agency or the draft, he could have a little resurgence. The defense isn't half bad. They just spend 2/3 of the game on the field because the offense under Geno Smith could do nothing. So I think it's a good hire for the Raiders. Um, I want to hold my full judgment until he actually signs, even though, you know, he says he's doing it and the reports are he's doing it. Until he does it, I get, you know, until that name is on the dotted line and he's at Raiders headquarters just signing his contract with the Raiders logo behind him, I'm just going to sit tight and kind of be like, yeah, it's a good pick if it happens.
If it happens. All right, so last subject right now before we take break. NFL Hall of Fame has announced basically their finalists, and basically we know who's going to get in. And unfortunately for one, Mr. Bill Belichick, he did not make the first ballot. Now, I understand when we break down the exact reason for why he did not get the thing, but I do agree with some that I don't agree to the extent, but I do agree with some when they say it degrades the value of Hall of Fame when somebody who is an 8-time champion has the most playoff wins, a bunch of regular season wins in his, and regardless of whether or not you love or hate the New England Patriots, they were the biggest dynasty in football for almost 2 decades, and he doesn't make the Hall of Fame on his first ballot. I assume probably he'll make it next year, but yeah. Obviously, Swab, a former Raiders fan, is high on the Hall, so I'll let him have his say.
I'm gonna say it like this: a lot of fans are saying it devalues the Hall of Fame. I say it actually strengthens the Hall of Fame, and I'll give you the reason. We understand the reasoning behind it, and some of it, I'm sure, had a little bit to do about all the, let's just call it what it was, scandals throughout the Patriots dynasty run that they had, and it was still a dynasty, you know, scandals or not. And however you feel about the things, Spygate, Deflategate, all that stuff, I'll say it like this. The home run leader for all-time home runs, the all-time hits leader are not in their Hall of Fame. Why? Because
I
one
want to say,
was
did Rose get
accused of,
inducted posthumously recently?
yeah, posthumously, yeah, he did after he had to wait, what,
Yeah,
40
all
years,
his
30
life.
years,
Yeah.
until he died. So I mean, And he was just gambling on baseball. We don't know to the full extent. Was he just gambling on his team? I think that makes a difference for me, because if
Yeah.
you're just gambling on your team to win, I'm all for it. Whatever extra edge you need. And then if you're gambling on other sports because you got the inside track and understand baseball, hell, more power to you. I mean, DraftKings and all this internet gambling, them blown gambling all the way up. Now we got professional teams in Vegas, for Christ's sakes, where they said it was a total no zone my entire life. You know, they didn't even want people to go to Atlantic City or Vegas. You didn't want to get caught. So you were only in the high roller suites. But anyway, I digress. So you got the home run leader not in, who never failed a test while he played. He was linked to Balco. He still never failed a test, even after the whole Balco stuff came out, and he's still been denied. Now, Roger Clemens is a bit different. He got caught with his wife ordering his HGH to keep his career going, but make no mistake about it. Is Bill Belichick deserving? Absolutely. Did the scandals help him? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But also, with that being said, the way that the Hall of Fame voting is set up also didn't help him. I think it is egregious. And this is another side topic that has been brought about online a lot, is that, well, if the seniors that are included, because apparently the voting comes down to 5 people, and of those 5, you only get 3 votes. So people get left off, whether they're deserving or not. You got to rank them, and how you rank them, determines who the 3 is that gets in. And the thought process for a lot of the voters this year was you had 3 very good seniors, Hall of Fame worthy seniors, that would have fallen off the ballot had they not gotten in right then. So they ended up getting the votes, and that left Belichick out in the cold, even though he's got all these titles and probably the winningest coach in NFL history so far. So
Those
this,
three seniors were QB Ken Anderson, running back
yeah.
Roger Craig, and defensive lineman L.C. Greenwood.
Yeah, and all 3 of those guys are deserving. I think the Hall really has to re-examine how they do the voting, because a lot of the fans were saying, well, if they've been on the votes for this long, they didn't deserve to be Hall of Famers. And I think that's inaccurate. I
Nah,
think what really happens is that you get a guy who's a tweener, a guy that is worthy, but then you've got 3 other guys that are more worthy, you would say. And you say, well, Dirk, if more worthy is what held those guys back, more worthy guys got in, then how do you sit on Belichick? Because Belichick's not in his last year.
right. This is
He's
his
got
first
more
year.
eligibility. He will get in at some point, and these guys deserve to get in before they fall off and aren't allowed to be voted on anymore, which honestly is a travesty.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame has to redo how they do the votes, and I know fans think that it'll uh, degrade what's in the hall. The Roger Craig deserves to be in there. Ken
Oh, yeah.
Anderson was great. Greenwood was a great player. So I mean, these are guys that we kind of grew up as kids watching play the game and helped give us the love of the game. And some of them were absolutely critical in their time and in their heyday for the teams they played on. And they are Hall of Fame worthy. You're not always going to have the absolutely best stats ever. I mean, Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame with more interceptions than touchdowns, because he had the aura. He did the guarantee, which had never been done before in almost all of sports. I guarantee a victory and then go out and deliver. So, and even though he didn't have the greatest game, he did win the game. So, I mean, you know, you can't have this era bias. The 3 seniors deserve to get in. I'm happy that it happened to Bill Belichick as a ex-Raider fan, but you've got to understand what's going on in the hall, why it had to happen like this, and you can't really feel mad about it. Bill Belichick will be a Hall of Famer. He just won't be a first-time ballot Hall of Famer, But honestly, they did the same thing to T.O., and T.O. deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and they left him off the first ballot. So it's not like we didn't have this just happen recently to someone else who was deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Very true. All right. Well, I'll close us there. Let's take this quick, about 5-minute promo break, and we'll be back to talk a little NBA and some trade deadline talk. Yeah, that's going to be fun. That may close us out. But we'll see y'all on the other side. You're watching First GenXers Presents The Classroom on the First GenXers Broadcast Network. I'm Dark Lord 100. That there is Dark Swab. We'll see y'all on the other side of the break. Peace.
back at it. Yep, we still doing it. Poetic beats. First GenXers. Gia. Let's get it, y'all. Come on. We back in the building. It's been a long time cooking in the soup kitchen. And I'm chilling with the same. Dropping these beats won't stop, nope, I can't. Let me get up in the lab, turn it up. Game on with the first GenXers. What's up? Let's flip on the switch or the Xbox and get up in my zone. I'm clowning. Let me clear my throat for a minute. Shout out to my folks while I'm in it. It ain't nothing but love, it's baby business. I really don't know what's so who ain't feeling this. And this is only the beginning. Now versus then, this is something for the chillin'. Poetic got the joints like McDonald's. I'm loving it. It's the first GenX. We're now rocking with Poetic Beats. This is the first GenX's production. Get your PlayStations out. Get your Xbox out. Get your Switch out. Let's get it in, y'all. Holla back.
You got to keep it lovely. You got to keep it. You got to keep it lovely. Success comes right after the struggle. I ain't even giving up on whatever I wanted. The tragedies I've seen, I can't even stomach. Most of y'all weak as shit and would've started running. Every time I make it back to the crib, I'm thankful the Most High let me see all of it. Grateful I'm lovely, and I've been real with this. Please don't judge me. I'ma stay on my shit. I'ma keep it.
You getting on my nerves. You getting on my nerves. Gang, gang, bitch. You getting on my nerves. Gang, gang, bitch. You getting on my nerves. Get your titty, get your titty, get your titty on. Gang, gang, bitch. Get your titty, get your titty, get your titty on. I said what I said. No, please don't tell on me. No, please don't tell the police. Gang, gang, you getting on my nerves.
All right. And we are back. Hope y'all enjoyed that little self-promotion there. Got to get it in there. For the First GenXers Broadcast Network here on Twitch with all the great shows that we have here, including the one you're watching now, which is The Classroom, featuring myself, Dark Lord 100, and the one and only Dirk Swab. We just got done talking football for a little bit. Now we're going to jump into this basketball world. One of the top stories right now that's on the tongues of every basketball fan is the trade deadline. And Giannis is said to have told the Bucks that he wants out. Not necessarily he wants out, but that he feels it's time for him to move on to other places. And one of the serious contenders for Giannis is the Golden State Warriors. There's been plenty of packages being thrown around as to what the Warriors could offer. It's been said by Brian Windhurst on ESPN that the Warriors have the best assets to be able to offer to the Bucks. Swab, what are your thoughts on this potential trade happening and bringing Giannis to the bank to help Steph?
I'm curious on what in the end it's going to look like. I think that they could hold on to a player or two, one of the youngsters, and not have to give up, say, a Moses Moody or a Pods if they're willing to add an extra pick or a pick swap to sweeten the deal. That's really what this trade is going to be based on. It's unknown at this time. I've seen reports saying they don't want to put Jimmy Butler into the trade. They want to keep Jimmy Butler for this. They think that they have the ability to add a few contracts with Kaminga and send him to the Bucks. But my preference would be to go ahead and sub out Butler. It was great while we had you, but you tore your ACL, you're out a full year. It's already halfway through the season almost. You're about to miss half of next year. So, plus you'll be coming back off the ACL. So there's no necessarily guarantee you're just going to step back on the court and be even the Jimmy you were for us. We're not even talking playoff Miami Heat Jimmy. So I'm curious to see what the final offers look like. I'm curious to see if the Bucks even trade them to the Warriors. They do have the best draft assets available because they have the most picks to send and pick swaps on top of that. So I'm curious what the final deal looks like, who's all included outside of Kaminga, who I think is for surely going to be a part of this trade package, whatever it ends up being. And I believe that his money is really the reason we'll have to take back two players. And if I were greedy, I mean, if the Bucks are really gonna blow it up, I mean, I'd ask for Miles Turner on top of it. I mean, give us Giannis and Turner, and we'll add in a couple extra picks. And I'm really liking the Warriors' chances this year if they could pull that magical, you know, thing off. So, but from what I've heard, it's going to be Portis and Giannis, or Giannis and his brother, or something to that effect, because they've got to put either Butler's money with Kaminga, which means Bucks would take back more salary than they're getting. So they might want to add something to it, but I think that's the best bet. They're two expiring contracts. Jimmy's contract runs out next year. If they don't like Kaminga, his contract ends. And then you also have to remember, not only do they get the picks and pick swaps, whatever those end up being that the Warriors go up if they make this trade, but you still have two tradable assets. Jimmy Butler is still a tradable asset, even coming off of an ACL to a team as an expiring contract. Even though it's a large one, he could help another team with a playoff push. Kaminga still going to have some value, So I mean, if he goes to the Bucks and they don't necessarily like him, but he goes out there and averages 25, 28 a game because he's a offensive black hole. I mean, then you can trade him before the trade deadline next year and get even more assets, and they could be looking at the next Boston Celtics type run with Danny Ainge when he was just getting draft picks after draft picks. Then he finally started using them, and he built a great team that ended up winning a chip.
We shall see. We shall see. I think that Warriors team would look a lot different if you had Giannis. And I can see why they would want to keep Jimmy, but I agree with you on one thing. If Jimmy was only going to be out to the end of the season and you were going to start next year fresh with a healthy Jimmy, healthy Giannis, healthy Steph, and healthy Draymond, and you managed to keep all of that, oh yeah, I'm here for that. But
if it wasn't the ACL, we just have no idea what kind of player he's going to look like when he comes back.
And so to me, that's a 100% valid my argument.
And I
all
love
right,
you,
so,
Jimmy.
Other trades that are taking place with the deadline approaching, the Washington Wizards acquired Trae Young. We talked about that from the Atlanta Hawks for C.J. McCullough and Corey Cuthbert. A 3-team deal sent Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis to the Cleveland Cavaliers, DeAndre Hunter to the Sacramento Kings, and Dario Saric to the Bulls. What you thinking about that trade?
I mean, Schroeder, I saw a meme saying he's trying to finish his career by playing for every single team in the league. And I mean, I like him. I think he did do himself a disservice by not signing that 4-year, $80 million offer that he got from the Lakers. And he hasn't necessarily been equaling that in the money that the last few years since he said no to that deal. The market when he went to free agency didn't turn out how he thought it was going to. And
Yeah.
I think the Lakers would have been very nice had he stayed. We might not have even seen the emergence of Austin Reeves if that were the case, had he actually stayed for that contract. So you know, I like Schroeder. I think this is a good move for him. The Cavs want to shake it up a little bit. Not really sure about the Kings. They're just kind of moving pieces around, trying to figure it out still. It's going to be curious.
They got Westbrook, Rosen, and Zach LaVine over there in Sacramento. Now they got DeAndre Hunter. We'll see. They still got Malik Monk. They still got Domantas Sabonis. So I think
trade deadline is still 5
they're
days.
Just they're trying to find that fire that they had during that run when they kept running into the Warriors every year in the playoffs.
They want to light the beacon so bad in the playoffs, but it's been tough.
All right. So those are the trades this week as well. The All-Star starters were announced. They included those are the All-Star reserves. Sorry, let me get the list of All-Star starters here. You know, we'll start here. All we know is LeBron's not one of them. So you give your thoughts, bro.
I mean, you can look at it two ways. The fans said no.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what it comes down to. The fans have the votes. LeBron is one of the most overly loved guys in the sport. And this year, his fans didn't necessarily have his back per se, you know. So it's a kind of a long time coming. I saw some things I don't think they were real, where LeBron said he should be a starter and he didn't think it was right, you know, going out like this. And I'm like, well, let's be real. Unless you abruptly end your career, this is how all the greats, it happens to all of them.
Oh, eventually you wear out, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. Plus the fact you missed a nice healthy chunk to the early season. So I mean,
do a sciatica.
Yeah. So I mean, you didn't even play all year, and then you know you're turning around already complaining that the pace of the game is so much. That's why we have to load manage, and it's like you're averaging 30 more possessions than they did in the 90s. Yeah. But that's because you choose to run fast. That's just what the game happened to evolve to, and the bodies have gotten better. So I mean, you should be able to play 82 damn games.
Somebody's comment on Facebook said it all underneath the thing about that comment, where all dude said was, "Don't you spend like $1 million a year on your body?"
Yeah, for the sole purpose of doing it. I mean, let's be honest. Without PTO, we couldn't miss a quarter of the year of our work. For little ticky-tack things. Even with sick time and PTO, it still doesn't equal a quarter of our work year. So I mean, let's call it a spade. But him not getting voted in as a starter, I mean, it was going to happen at some point.
It's not a tragedy. There are people who there are other people who deserved it, especially in the West. The West starters are his teammate Luka Doncic at the guard position, the other guard being Steph Curry, possibly the second most popular basketball player right behind and beloved basketball player right behind LeBron James. Shai Alexander, Nikola Jokic, of course, and Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Wemby.
I mean, you can't. I don't see an avenue where LeBron can be mad that he wasn't in that 5.
He made the reserve.
Who are going to be over? Yeah, that was a foregone conclusion. He was going to be on the team.
He earned his 22nd selection. Well, first time the All-Stars include Kane Cunningham, Evan Mobley, and Jamal Murray as reserves. For the East, it was Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey for the 76ers, and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics.
And I'm curious if Giannis does get traded to the Warriors, does he become a Western All-Star or does he still play for the East?
That's a good question.
I'm curious.
Well, I don't think he's playing at all because at this point he's out for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I
He'll
don't
probably
think
miss
he's
the
going to
game
play
regardless.
Yeah, he'll probably miss the game regardless. But at least he got the All-Star nod. On his career record, he'll get credit for the nod. Let's see. Last but not least, let's just touch on the Detroit Pistons, who officially overtook the Oklahoma City Thunder with the best record in basketball, with being 36-12 to Oklahoma's. No, sorry, Oklahoma still has the thing by about a game and a half. Oklahoma City is 38-11. Detroit is 36-12 on a 2-game winning streak and just took over the top spot in the East. What you thinking about them Pistons?
Honestly, the game as a whole is looking wonderful. I mean, you got OKC, incredibly young, still got a gajillion assets to keep the team going. They've actually been paying their guys instead of trading them off. You got the Pistons, it's funny when we talked about OKC, we said, they remind us of the Warriors when the Warriors finally got their run after 40 years of futility. But so does Detroit. You finally get some players in the draft. You have a rough season, then you have you make the playoffs, and then you kind of get bounced. And now you're, top of the league at the moment. They got still a long ways to go to get there and get that number 1 seed. But these are the kind of steps and progressions that we see from young teams when they kind of take that next step in their evolution. I think there's a couple of other young teams that are in the mix. I think Orlando could be taking that jump at some point soon. But you got to give your shout out to the Detroit Pistons that honestly, they haven't really been good since Chauncey Billups and the crew were there, and Rasheed Wallace. So, that fan base, even though they did have the 80s with Isaiah Thomas, and then they did have the Chauncey Billups ones, it's been a minute now. Let's put it like this. They had to wait longer than the Spurs did to finally get back to being good.
Yeah.
So, they were due for it. I'm glad for it because I hate to see storied franchises be bottom feeders for too long.
I feel you. All right. So final subject of the day is one that I know you'll like. I didn't do up a banner for it, so we'll just talk about it. It falls under the category of various topics, top other sports stories, non-NBA or NFL sports stories for the week. And it is the one, the only, the new top man in men's tennis, Carlos Alcaraz, as he becomes the youngest tennis player to win the career Grand Slam by winning the Aussie Open title, defeating Djokovic. 22 years old, he becomes the youngest man to achieve a career Grand Slam, having now won all 4 major titles. And then Elena Rybakina claimed the women's singles title earlier this weekend, defeating Ariana Sabalenka. But your thoughts on Alcaraz getting the career, with a lot of careers still left in front of him?
I'm going to be honest. This one kind of feels different than some of the guys in the past that have done this type of thing. You give him his credit. He's the youngest to ever do it. He got it done. But make no mistake, in my opinion, I think tennis is the weakest overall that it's been in a very, very long time, when his peers did the same thing. You've got guys on the way out, like the guy that he beat. He's a champion tennis player, but he's at the tail end of his career. So I'll give this guy credit, but what I really want to see, who becomes his rival?
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't end up with a rival, he might just run the sport. All the other greats.
Djokovic did it for a while. Like Djokovic didn't. It took a little bit. There was a gap between when Djokovic what's his name? Novak Djokovic started dominating tennis, and before he really started having anybody that was pushing back against him. Like it took a couple.
It was the kid with the long hair. The I want to say he's Spanish or something. He does
Not
great on the
Sampras.
clay courts.
Sampras was
No,
before.
not Sampras. It was he just got finished playing. I want to say he just retired. I can't remember his damn
Go
name.
ahead and keep thinking.
But yeah, a lot of when you think of a lot of the greats, you know, they always have not just
Nadal.
a rival.
Nadal and Roger Federer,
yeah. So I mean, and Federer fell off like, you know, he retired. It feels like 10 years ago. You know, so really it was Nadal and Djokovic that kind of were running things in the league, but it was just kind of them two. You know, when the golden age was had Sampras, Agassi, Stephen Chang. You know, there was a long line of guys that were stepping up and knocking out titles and winning, and even Federer. You know, Novak was young, Nadal was young. They finally start coming in as he's going out. So who's going to be this guy's peers and rivals to kind of help keep the sport up to what we're accustomed to? Because if no one else steps up, he's probably going to have a run that rivals some of the greats. But when you really look back at it, it's going to be like, you know, yeah, you had to beat the guys that were in front of you, but there weren't really any challengers available.
It's saying a guy by the name of Yannick Sinner is basically what would soon to be his chief rival. Alexander Zverev from Germany is consistently ranked in the top 3. Then Djokovic continues to hold the top position as always. They also got Lorenzo Musetti, Alex de Minaur from Australia, and Musetti from Italia. High-ranking players frequently in the top 10.
Yeah, because it's one thing to dominate in tennis, but if you don't have a consistent rival who's also winning and kind of thwarts you here and there and wins some of the things you lose at, I mean, without a rival, you don't really get the praise that the others do. You know, Sampras and Federer, they all had rivals, and not just a rival, rivals plural. So you're waiting for the next people to step up. I think Nadal is already done. Novak is on his way out. He's almost done as well. Once this guy that just got the career slam done, once his rival steps up and starts winning the slams too, or the opens, I ought to say, once he starts losing those and they start gaining traction, he'll get his flowers. Right now, youngest to ever do it. Looks like he's going to be cream of the crop, top of the game for a minute. But we're still waiting to see who steps up into the void left by the other greats that are on their way out.
Well said. Well said. I don't believe there's anything more to say on the subject. All right. So that's going to close us out for this week. As always, sir, it has been a great show. I will allow you your time on the stage to say what you need to say and close us out before we come back and give Miss O'Malley a shout out. Here we go. Oh, wait.
All right.
Hold on. There we go.
That started out great. All right, so I'm pulling for the Seahawks to win. I think they win by 14 points. I got a feeling there's a couple turnovers by Drake May as they're forced to kind of play from behind. I got a feeling final score is going to be something like 17-31, something like that. So Spurs still didn't deserve Wemby. Waiting to see what happens with Giannis. I'm curious if the Raiders do pull the trigger on Mendoza. I'm ready for that Kubiak to sign on the dotted line. The kid in tennis needs a rival. It's always fuck Tom Brady. And go ahead and let's just add that. Sorry, LeBron, for not being a starter for the first time. And for the very last thing, I'd like to send a congratulations to second ballot Hall of Famer Bill Belichick.
The things we revel in, the small things. Anyway, all right, y'all. So that's going to do it for us. And as always, you guys know what it is around here. It's Fuck LeBron. And O'Malley, rest up, get well, and we'll see you next week, mama. Other than that, Suave, as always, a pleasure. Y'all stay with it, or Suave, stick around for after I end it. Y'all stay up. Saint may be on a little bit later with a little bit of NBT due, so keep an eye out for that. If not, then you'll see me next on Tuesday with some NCAA college football 26 and Rune Scryer tonight at midnight. That's it for us. Yeah. Peace.
Bye.